welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Rishika Parwa. Let's get you up to speed with the top headlines we're tracking this morning. Well, there are now 21 cases of the new Omicron variant here in India, with 7 new cases detected in Maharashtra, 9 of a family testing positive in Jaipur, 1 case being found in Delhi. 17 cases of these are just in the last 24 hours. COVID clusters continue to emerge in India. 39 medical students have tested positive for COVID in the Karimnagar district of Telangana after annual day festivities were held in the college over a week ago. The National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization is all set to meet today to discuss the administration of additional dose of the COVID-19 vaccine to immunocompromised individuals. A murder case has been filed over a botched Nagaland operation after 15 people, including a soldier, were killed in an Indo-Myanmar border counterinsurgency operation. One villager died after a mob attacked the Assam Rifles camp. Well, our top focus continues to remain India's Omicron tally, which is steadily rising, with fresh cases of the new variant being reported across Maharashtra, Rajasthan and Delhi. In the last 24 hours, India has reported 17 cases of the Omicron variant. There's 7 cases in Maharashtra. 9 members of a family have tested positive for Omicron in Jaipur. 1 man has been found positive with the Omicron variant in Delhi. These are just the official numbers basis genomic surveillance data that is now coming in. So this has taken the total count of Omicron cases in the country to 21, and 17 of these cases have been reported, like I said, in just the last 24 hours. Meher Pandey, my colleague tracking the details of this story, joins us this morning. Good morning, Meher. It isn't good news as far as the Omicron tally is concerned, with 17 new cases of the rapidly transmissible variant being detected in just the last 24 hours.
Yes, Rishika. So I first want to give you a tally of where each of these cases is, so we know where the virus is right now spreading as far as we know on the basis of genome sequencing data shared by the government. So 2 cases were in Karnataka, and one was a doctor with no travel history, and one has already left the country. He wasn't an Indian national. 1 in Gujarat, he was an elderly individual. 8 in Maharashtra, 9 in Jaipur, all from a wedding that was attended by someone who had just recently returned from South Africa. So these are all cases at a wedding. Then there is 1 in Delhi. This all takes the India's tally to 21, as you said. The Ministry of Health has actually indicated that there are more cases that they expect to detect in Rajasthan and in Delhi. Remember that the Rajasthan wedding was attended by around 100 people, but only 34 could be tested at the time and sequenced genomically, out of which 9 have come out positive. So there are more people who are going to be tested and genomically sequenced from this wedding in Jaipur, which will, the ministry expects, lead to more Omicron cases. Now, in light of all of this, the vaccination, the body that looks at vaccination and sees how the strategy of vaccination needs to be, is considering a booster dose for immunocompromised individuals. This comes after the INSACOG, the body that monitors mutations in the virus, that has been sharing all this data of the new Omicron variant, has actually recommended a booster dose. So there is panic slowly spreading, concern for this variant. We know so far that it's highly transmissible. As we can see, there were 17 cases in just the last 24 hours. These are cases that have actually been detected. We can be sure that there are more that have gone undetected. But we don't know how it affects disease severity, whether it does lead to hospitalizations or not. But to be safe, it's better to think of booster doses for people who have immunocompromised systems.
Well, absolutely, and the question of booster doses is, increasingly becoming an important one. Meher, like you've been reporting, there is expected to be a meeting of the National Technical Advisory Group on immunization today, and hopefully the government of India will take a decision on booster shots, at least for frontline healthcare workers and those immunocompromised individuals. We'll track that story very closely. Meanwhile, as we track the Omicron story, there are concerns over clusters of infections that are being detected in different parts of the country. The latest being the case of 39 medical students who've tested positive for COVID in Telangana. These are cases that we're reporting from the Karimnagar district. And this is in fact a cluster that's emerged 1 week after a college festival was held. Meanwhile, there are 9 people from the same family who have tested positive for COVID in Jaipur. These are now confirmed Omicron variant positive cases after the genome reports are out. This, of course, has added to the tally of 21. Harsha has more details on the Jaipur cases. Let's listen in.
Well, yes, it does appear now that the 9 people who had tested positive for COVID and who were suspected cases for the new variant for Omicron have been confirmed by the Secretary for Medical Education, Mr. Vaibhav Galeria. Now, remember, these people, 4 people from a family had returned from South Africa, had come in from South Africa, and they had met up to at least 30 people now, it appears. But all of them were tested, and then it now appears that only 5 had tested positive. So that was a total of 9. They were all in isolation and in quarantine. And now the others have also been admitted to the RUHS hospital. All of them have taken a double dose of vaccine except for the 3 children. There are 3 children in this group. One is about 8 years old and the others are about 14 to 16. The 2 others are in that age group. So everybody has taken a double dose of vaccine. They have mild symptoms, and as of now we've been told they are doing fine. So that's the latest update. But yes, a cause of worry that 9 people in Jaipur have confirmed for the new variant of the virus.
Meanwhile, 7 people, 4 foreign returnees and 3 of their close contacts have tested positive for the Omicron variant in Maharashtra. Now, this, of course, has contributed to the total tally again. 7 cases, 7 new cases of Omicron in Maharashtra have taken the toll in Maharashtra so far, the known toll in Maharashtra so far, to 8. Meanwhile, it's also being reported in Delhi now. The national capital reported its first case of the Omicron variant on Sunday. The Delhi Health Minister Satyendra Jain confirmed this. The patient has indeed returned from Tanzania. His travel history is being collated and the contacts of this patient are in fact being traced.
Cases of the coronavirus variant Omicron rising in India, with the capital reporting its first. A 37-year-old Indian who arrived in Delhi from Tanzania tested positive for Omicron. He is now admitted at the LNJP hospital.
अभी तक 17 पॉजिटिव पेशेंट्स LNJP में भर्ती किए गए हैं. 17 जो पॉजिटिव हैं उसमें जीनोम सीक्वेंसिंग कराई गई, तो अभी तक 12 लोगों की जीनोम सीक्वेंसिंग की हो चुकी है और एक उसमें से जो है ओमिक्रॉन का पेशेंट लगता है कि जो तंजानिया से आया है.
पहला मामला हमें मिला है, ये 2 तारीख को आया है और ये तंजानिया से ट्रैवल करके अंतर्राष्ट्रीय हवाई अड्डा दिल्ली से आया था हमारे पास लोकनायक में और अभी हमारे यहाँ भर्ती है. इसको हल्के सिम्टम्स हैं, हल्का बुखार था, थोड़ा सा गले में दर्द था, थोड़ा वीकनेस इसको महसूस कर रहा था.
Meanwhile, international passengers complain of being greeted at the airport on landing in India with long waiting hours and confusion and chaos.
So I paid 3,500 for a rapid test in which the result was supposed to come after 1 or 2 hours. I got the test done and after that nothing. They didn't care. We just left.
बहुत ज़्यादा हार्मफुल है अंदर है ना, क्योंकि ना कोई सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग का प्रोटोकॉल फॉलो कर रहा है और मास्क भी लगाया जा रहा है तो यहाँ तक लगाया जा रहा है जिसका कोई फ़ायदा नहीं है. हम इतनी दूर से बच के आ रहे हैं बट यहाँ पे अगर हमारे को कोविड हो गया बाय चांस तो हमारे लिए कितना प्रॉब्लम वाली बात है ये.
India has so far reported 21 Omicron cases, with the national capital reporting its first today. International passengers have been asked to adhere to strict guidelines and undergo RT-PCR tests. But the government must act fast to ensure that the spread can be controlled of this new variant. In Delhi with Sanjay Kaushik, Shonakshi Chakravarti for NDTV.
Meanwhile, 35 rapid RT-PCR testing machines are functional within Terminal 3. This is what the Health Minister tweeted to confirm as he paid a visit to T3 to take stock of the screening measures and testing measures at the Indira Gandhi International Airport in the national capital. The Health Minister tweeted to say that screening and testing time can be reduced to 30 minutes as well. That is a tweet that was put out by Dr. Mansukh Mandavia earlier today. Meanwhile, all eyes are on a key meeting that's going to be taking place today, which will essentially decide on whether or not India will go ahead with booster doses of the COVID vaccine, especially for the healthcare frontline workers and immunocompromised individuals. The National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization, NTAGI, or TAGI as it's called, is set to meet today to discuss the administration of additional dose of the COVID-19 vaccine to immunocompromised individuals. There has been a recommendation, remember, that's been made by the INSEGOG government panel, which has recommended to the Government of India that all those above the age of 40 should in fact be considered for booster doses. And this is, of course, an important recommendation that has been made, especially in the light of the increasing cases of Omicron being reported here in India. Well, on to the other big story that we're tracking this morning. A murder case has been filed over the botched Nagaland operation after 15 people, including a soldier, were killed at the Indo-Myanmar border during the counter-insurgency operation. One villager died after a mob then attacked the Assam Rifles camp. Here's what we know.
The bodies of 8 villagers in the back of their pickup truck that was wrongly targeted by the army in Nagaland's Mon district yesterday. The army unit which was deployed was on the lookout for militants and had set up an ambush in the Oting village. Confronted by hundreds of villagers after no weapons were found in the pickup, the army soldiers were attacked and their vehicles were set on fire. They opened fire in self-defense. At least 5 more villagers and an army Jawan died as the situation went out of control. Injured Jawans were taken to hospital. 24 hours later, there is no let-up to the tension in the area, and Assam Rifles camp was attacked by angry people in Mon town. This office was also attacked, a man in a car managing to escape with his life. In a statement, the army has said, "The incident and its aftermath is deeply regretted. The cause of the unfortunate loss of lives is being investigated at the highest level and appropriate action will be taken as per the course of law."
Even if such information is there, the security forces should have been meticulously examined before they acted upon the civilian in that manner.
Home Minister Amit Shah has reacted, stating, "Anguished over an unfortunate incident in Nagaland's Oting in Mon. I express my deepest condolences to the families of those who have lost their lives." But the situation is still volatile. SMS and 3G services have been shut down across the Mon district. A high-level special investigation team is set to investigate the incident, with senior army, police and home ministry officials scheduled to meet in Kohima. With Ratndeep Chaudhary, Bureau Report, NDTV.
Now, a curfew has been imposed in the Mon district of Nagaland after this violence broke out, and 15 people, like I said, including a soldier, were killed. Another villager died as a mob attacked the Assam Rifles camp after this. A murder case has, of course, been filed. The army said, meanwhile, that the incident and its aftermath is deeply regretted. Vishnu has more details.
Now, the army deployed a special forces team to ambush militants in this area of Nagaland. Now, according to sources, the Assam Rifles, which is typically deployed in this area, they fight insurgents, militants, and the local police were not in fact informed of this particular situation. So the local police and the Assam Rifles who were actually involved were not informed. The army used a special forces team in this particular area. Now, sources indicate to us, and this is obviously something that's quite well known, that the Assam Rifles, a paramilitary force expert at guarding this area. This isn't to say that the army hasn't been, but in this case there was a massive botch up. Now, the army team on this occasion was led by a major. They identified a truck mistakenly as a target with militants. They were tracking militants and they opened fire. Sources indicate that this truck, it was a pickup truck, had about 8 people on board. 6 were killed on the spot. 2 died on the way to hospital. No arms or ammunition have been recovered from this truck, is what sources indicate to us. Now, it is unclear if there was some other weaponry with these people. Who were the people on the truck? We are told that they are coal miners from a local coal mine where they were working when they were attacked, mistakenly attacked in this ambush. Once that did take place, there were hundreds of villagers in that area who surrounded that army unit and attacked them. The army team then opened fire in self-defense. In the process of this battle, as it were, that broke out almost with these soldiers being lynched, in fact, 1 para-commando was killed and 7 Jawans have been injured, we are told, quite seriously. But in the retaliatory fire by the Indian Army, 5 villagers have been killed and several injured. That number of injured villagers we don't have right now.
All right, Ratnadeep, tracking the details of this story, joins us with the very latest. Ratnadeep, we know that Home Minister Amit Shah has said that a special investigation team will in fact probe the matter, but what do we know about the investigation so far?
In fact, a special investigation team of 5 members have been formed by the Nagaland police. It has been instituted. Yesterday the order is out. The special investigation team has already taken over the investigation of this case, where 13 civilians were gunned down by the Indian Army Special Forces on Saturday, and subsequently yesterday, when the angry mob tried to storm inside the Assam Rifles camp in Mon town, the district headquarters of the Mon district of Nagaland. Assam Rifles claims it had to fire in self-defense, where 1 civilian had died due to bullet injuries. So that will also come under the ambit of this case. In fact, the FIR has been initially lodged at Tirjit police station in Mon district, and now it has been transferred to the crime branch police station. That's what police sources are telling us. In fact, we at NDTV we have accessed the copy of the FIR. It is a suo motu FIR, which has been lodged by the Nagaland police, where it has categorically said that the 21 para special forces of Indian Army, they had gone there without any police guide, without informing the police, and also very categorically in the FIR, the police says that it seems that they'd gone there to with an intention to harm the civilians. In fact, in the FIR, the personnel of 21 para special forces of Indian Army have been charged with murder, section 302 and section 307 of IPC. Under these 2 sections they have been booked. So Nagaland police says that they are going to take up this investigation. In fact, the funeral service of the civilians who have died is going to take place in Mon around 10 a.m. this morning, and after that, the mortal remains would be sent to the native village in Oting, which is basically about more than an hour's drive from district headquarters Mon, and there for the burial, this will happen. In fact, Nagaland Chief Minister Nefurio is reaching Mon along with even the former Chief Minister Mr.
Right.
T.R. Zeliang is supposed to reach there. Senior officials are there.
Okay.
But what is important here is that remember yesterday at NDTV, we had run a detailed story in terms of what had happened on Saturday evening in this operation, which Indian Army claims to be a case of mistaken identity. But now the NDTV story stands validated with the copy of the FIR that we have accessed, where the unit of the Indian Army, 21 Para Special Forces, headquartered at Jorhat in Assam.
Yes.
They have been named in the FIR, in the Suomoto FIR that the Nagaland police has taken. And now the SIT is going to investigate. But remember one thing, this area is under Armed Forces Special Power Act. So to prosecute the Indian Army personnel, a permission from center has to be taken. Whether center will grant this permission is a big question now.
Welcome back. Russian President Vladimir Putin will visit Delhi today. He's going to attend the 21st India-Russia Annual Summit. The day will begin with Defence Minister and the Russian counterpart co-chairing the Intergovernmental Commission. The External Affairs Minister will have a bilateral with his Russian counterpart, followed by an inaugural meeting of the newly instituted 2+2 dialogue mechanism at the level of Foreign and Defence Ministers. Now, there is also going to be the first in-person meeting between the Russian President and Prime Minister Modi after their meeting on the sidelines of the BRICS summit back in November 2019. The bilateral focus is expected to be on the ongoing delivery of the S-400 missile defence systems and big-ticket defence agreements. The issue of Afghanistan is also expected to be discussed. Welcome back. Navy ships have been illuminated near the RK beach in Visakhapatnam. This is as a part of the Navy Day celebrations at Visakhapatnam. 3 Indian Navy ships of the Eastern Naval Command were on a spectacular display, illuminating the silhouette of the ships at anchorage near the RK beach on Sunday evening from sunset to midnight. The ships also fired coloured flares during the illumination display. We leave you with these pictures. Welcome back. You're watching Good Morning India. 21 cases of the new Omicron variant have been detected in the country so far. 17 of these cases have been detected in the last 24 hours. There are 4 foreign returnees from Maharashtra who tested positive for the Omicron variant. 3 of their contacts have also tested Omicron positive. This has taken Maharashtra's total tally to 8. 9 of a family have tested positive for the Omicron variant in Jaipur. Remember, 4 of these family members had a travel history to South Africa, and now 9 of the family have tested positive. In Delhi, 1 Tanzania returnee has tested positive for Omicron at the LNJP hospital. There are more suspect cases at LNJP at the moment. In Karnataka, meanwhile, there is a surge in COVID cases that is being recorded in 4 districts. This is something that was flagged by the Health Secretary in the letter written to the state of Karnataka on Saturday. Meanwhile, a COVID cluster, new cluster being reported from Telangana, the Karimnagar district, where 39 medical students have tested positive for COVID. Well, the other important development that we're tracking in the light of the new Omicron variant, now the National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization is going to be meeting today to take a decision on COVID-19 booster shots, whether booster shots will in fact be recommended for the immunocompromised people and for those healthcare and frontline workers is a question that we continue to ask, and a story that we'll continue to track. Meanwhile, 17 new cases of Omicron in just the last 24 hours. Meher has more details.
First, want to give you a tally of where each of these cases is, so we know where the virus is right now spreading as far as we know on the basis of genome sequencing data shared by the government. So 2 cases were in Karnataka, and one was a doctor with no travel history, and one has already left the country. He wasn't an Indian national. 1 in Gujarat, he was an elderly individual. 8 in Maharashtra, 9 in Jaipur, all from a wedding that was attended by someone who had just recently returned from South Africa. So these are all cases at a wedding. Then there is 1 in Delhi. This all takes the India's tally to 21, as you said. The Ministry of Health has actually indicated that there are more cases that they expect to detect in Rajasthan and in Delhi. Remember that the Rajasthan wedding was attended by around 100 people, but only 34 could be tested at the time and sequenced genomically, out of which 9 have come out positive. So there are more people who are going to be tested and genomically sequenced from this wedding in Jaipur, which will, the ministry expects, lead to more more Omicron cases. Now, in light of all of this, the vaccination, the body that looks at vaccination and sees how the strategy of vaccination needs to be, is considering a booster dose for immunocompromised individuals. This comes after the INSACOG, the body that monitors mutations in the virus, that has been sharing all this data of the new Omicron variant, has actually recommended a booster dose. So there is panic slowly spreading, concern for this variant. We know so far that it's highly transmissible. As we can see, there were 17 cases in just the last 24 hours. These are cases that have actually been detected. We can be sure that there are more that have gone undetected, but we don't know how it affects disease severity, whether it does lead to hospitalizations or not. But to be safe, it's better to think of booster doses for people who have immunocompromised systems.
All right, my colleagues Saurabh Gupta and Shrija join us from Mumbai and Bengaluru at the moment to bring us up to speed with the very latest. Saurabh, to you first. There are now 8 cases of the Omicron variant being detected in Maharashtra. There are 3 foreign returnees and their contacts who've tested positive in the last 24 hours. How many more suspect cases are there right now?
Well, there is a very strict screening and contact tracing process that's happening at the airport. In fact, a lot of people have been complaining about how strict the process is. But the fact is that it's required simply to identify these cases. Now, all these cases that are being identified in Maharashtra are all because of the screening and contact tracing process. Now, a 44-year-old woman in Pimpri-Chinchwad, who had come in from Lagos in Nigeria on the 24th of November 2021 to meet her brother in Pimpri-Chinchwad, and her 2 daughters accompanying her, the brother and his 2 daughters. A total of 6 people have tested positive for the Omicron variant. And this is as per the genome sequencing report of the National Institute of Virology in Pune. Now, additionally, a 47-year-old man from Pune has also tested positive for the Omicron variant. And of course, there also contact tracing is on. But the point is that all patients are being treated at Pimpri-Chinchwad and they're all stable. In fact, what we were discussing earlier, the fact is whether this variant requires hospitalization or not. Because if it doesn't require hospitalization, then the government can manage. But if it does require hospitalizations and then there is a surge in hospitalizations because of the fact that healthcare facilities are, swamped, in that case, there may be considerations on restrictions in, the days to come. But the government says that the contact tracing and the process that is put in place in the airport and people coming in from other places is to avoid that. There has to be some sort of restrictions to avoid a local spread, and that's something that the government is focusing on right now. Though health experts will tell you once the virus is in the country, it's very difficult to stop it, especially with things opening up and everybody going back to normal life. So there is a sort of crowd at most places. So that is something that obviously is also being considered in the current context. But at this point, that strict contact tracing screening program at the airport, especially for high-risk countries. You remember the 3 high-risk countries that have been declared by Maharashtra, of course, is South Africa, Botswana, and Zimbabwe. So all of these countries, there is screening, and people who are coming in or have a travel history to any of these countries are also being screened at the airport to prevent a local spread.
Joining us with that update, we'll of course keep a close watch on all those developments. Let's go across to Shrija for more on what's happening in Karnataka. Shrija, so far only those 2 confirmed cases of Omicron. Are there more suspected cases? There's also, a spike in 4 districts in Karnataka that is being red flagged.
Well, firstly, with regard to the Omicron cases, yes, of course, 2 have been tested positive for the variant of Omicron. But however, the government have also traced the primary and the secondary contacts of those who had come in contact of these 2 particular patients. But the samples have already been sent for genome sequencing. But what's also important to look at here in the state of Karnataka is the uptick, the uptrend in cases in the state. Over the past at least about 2.5 weeks, we've been looking at an uptrend, especially at educational institutions, and this is especially the colleges and the school, and this is also contributing to the highest number of caseloads. Just about yesterday, we have reported, Karnataka has reported 456 cases. In fact, this is the very first time that we are looking at in the last 30 to 35 days, where Karnataka is looking at over 400 cases. So there are several contributing factors that we're looking at. Very recently, just about 2 days ago, even the center had notified the state government to ensure that these particular districts that we're talking about, especially Bengaluru urban, Dharwad district, and other Tumkuru district as well, and Mysore, where they have gone on to contribute. For example, Tumkuru district is a neighboring district of Bengaluru. It has seen over 150% increase in the number of new cases. And then between, for example, between over the last 1 week, over the last 7 days, we've seen an increase, especially in Dharwad, which according to the doctors, they are talking about 20 to 25%. So these are the 4 major districts that have been contributing to the caseload, and that's apart. The cluster outbreak has been another challenge for the government, especially at colleges, schools, and also apartment complexes. So what's really important in the next few days is that the Karnataka government, if at all, they're going to contemplate on the fact, especially the education department, whether or not should they go ahead and shut schools and colleges.
All right. Thanks, Shrija, for joining us with that update from Karnataka. So an uptick in cases there being red flagged in Karnataka as well. We'll track that story very closely. Joining us on the broadcast, we have Dr. Sudhir Bhandari, member of the State Advisory Board of the Rajasthan government for COVID-19, also the head of core treatment group of government for COVID-19. Thanks very much, Dr. Bhandari, for being with us. We also have Dr. Bipin Vibhute, member of the COVID Task Force, Sayadri Hospitals, Pune, Maharashtra, with us. Thank you both very much. Dr. Bhandari, to you first. There is, a family of 9 who's tested positive for the Omicron variant in Jaipur. What more is known about their condition? We're given to understand that 4 of these family members actually had a travel history to South Africa, and all the adults in the family are double vaccinated.
Yeah, in fact, the moment we came to know that 4 people from South Africa have traveled to Jaipur, and they had a mild symptoms, we isolated them, we brought them to hospital and we tested them. In fact, once they came out to be COVID positive, we put them on the standard protocol of treatment. And by yesterday, with the genome sequencing, we could confirm that it is Omicron. But all, I would say that they are recovering. They had very mild symptoms and they are doing very well. The moment we came to know that they came in contact with few people, so all their contacts of around 34, we intensely tested, and 5 more out of their contacts came out to be Omicron positive. We shifted them under our observation. They were already in quarantine. They have mild symptoms. They are being treated with the standard protocol, and all 9 are doing well without any major health issue.
All right. So all 9 doing well, without any sort of
it is a mild disease, mild to moderate, and they are responding very well to the standard protocol of treatment.
This is very important, Doctor, what you're highlighting, because like we've been highlighting as well, that even though all of these individuals were double vaccinated, they tested positive for Omicron, but the fact that 2 doses of the vaccine is giving you good protection against severe disease, that's a positive sign, isn't it? Dr. Vibhute? Yeah. How are you looking at these developments? The Omicron tally in Maharashtra, for instance, has also risen now to 8. One is anticipating numbers to rise, but the vaccine continues to play an important role here.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever cases we have found so far, we need to check whether these patients were already vaccinated or not. And if they are vaccinated, what was their antibody titer? So we have to look into it, and then only we can come to conclusion that vaccine definitely protects this kind of viruses. And see, one more thing, I will just for the viewers, these vaccinations and this kind of viruses will keep on coming. We have to be prepared for such kind of viruses on and off. So our basic immunity cannot replace this kind of things. So I would suggest you have to keep your all standard precautions, keep yourself healthy, and just don't rely on vaccination and government to protect you all the time.
All right. So you have to, of course, continue to follow all the COVID protocols. Dr. Garg is also with us. Dr. Sunila Garg, member of the Lancet Commission COVID India Task Force, also advisor to ICMR and WHO. Thanks very much, Dr. Garg, for being with us this morning. I want to begin by asking you about the other huge cause of concern which we've seen in, the last couple of weeks, the reports of COVID-19 clusters emerging. Whether it's in educational institutions, and it's mainly actually been reported from educational institutions. And the reason I'm asking you this question is because that's exactly how the spread of Omicron started in South Africa. University students, college parties, and that's what's happening here. 39 have tested positive in Telangana after a college fest. Do you think there needs to be a rethink in strategy as far as public gatherings are concerned? All right, Dr. Garg, I'm going to have to interrupt you there because I think we've lost that audio connection. But let me take that question to Dr. Bhandari. Dr. Bhandari, do you think we need to rethink our strategy?
Yes, I think you are absolutely correct. Because, one of the new character of this Omicron virus is it is highly transmissible. And because of high transmissibility, there's always a scare of interpersonal spread. Hence, we need to avoid congregations, the parties, the closed door meetings, etc. Although there's a silver lining of every situation. Such a huge surge of patients in South Africa, but the ICU bed occupancy was only 4.1%. So definitely we need to address the high infectivity and high spreading ability of this Omicron variant. But at the same time, we are a little consoled that so far we have picked up only mild to moderate symptoms with not taking patient to critical level. We need to be observant for next 3 to 4 weeks how the symptomatology turn out to be. But yes, with the background of high infectivity, we need to avoid all congregation, parties, weddings, closed door meetings.
So congregations is something that experts at the moment are recommending, like yourselves, that it should be avoided. But does this actually need to be written down in black and white and issued as a directive? That's the larger question that one needs to answer before it is perhaps too late. But Dr. Vibhute, the other big question is on booster doses. There are reports that there are vaccines that are just lying, which are unused. Do you think there needs to be a concerted effort to now administer booster shots to our frontline workers, healthcare workers and our immunocompromised population? Which way would you weigh in?
Yeah, definitely we need to do that. But overall, general population is aware now that we have to take vaccines, first dose, second dose or booster dose. So government definitely will look into it and will start the booster doses as soon as possible, whoever wants. But one thing, what doctor said, I just want to highlight that this kind of viruses, they behave differently in a different region. For example, in Africa, there is infectivity is high, but symptoms are mild. So their ICU rate, administration rate is very low. It doesn't mean that will apply to our Asian people or Indian people or American people. So that their immunity is different, how virus behave to different. For example, when we go to out of the country to some foreign country, how they behave, how we behave, it completely depends on it, and I'm sure this virus will behave in the same way. So we have to be careful all the time.
Right. Dr. Garg, if you can hear us this time around, we actually couldn't hear you. But, the question on whether we need to rethink our strategy for containment, take preemptive steps, perhaps a ban on public gatherings or a rethink on that strategy?
Definitely, Rishika, good morning. This is already a strategy which has been there, and we need to look at, kind of enforcement of the strategy. That is very important. The strategy from a public health perspective was always there because the virus had not gone out. And from your channel, we had already shown that, large public health gatherings have to be avoided, COVID appropriate behavior has to be followed, and we have to also make containment zones, which is very, very important. And the government is also rethinking of the strategy in terms of effectiveness of vaccines. As of now, we say today it is there, and ICMR has already started thinking on the efficacy of vaccines, and they are going to look at it today and from today onwards. And also we are looking at, from the perspective of, which has already been mentioned about the perspective of boosters. That is also important. So today there is a meeting on that also. So these are two important things. But from a public health perspective, there are two messages. One is avoid large public health gatherings.
Yes.
Number two, get yourself vaccinated.
No, this message is important. But Dr. Garg, as a member of the COVID task force and as an expert on the subject, I mean, if you look at the current strategy for public gatherings in Karnataka, for instance, in Bengaluru, you need a double vaccine certificate to be able to enter malls and public places, which is a welcome move. But the cap at public gatherings is still 500 people. Given how rapidly Omicron is spreading, do you think we need to bring that down?
No, definitely we need to bring that down, and we need to look at that, we need to rethink our strategy. From an administrative perspective, that large gatherings, earlier we had come down to 50 also. So we should be looking at, because we have a virus which is present, which has got large transmissibility and also more infectivity. So that is important. And we are still not sure about the severity part. So from the admin perspective also, we need to look at the whole strategy. But most important is mask, which is a very important social vaccine. But then, if you have a big gathering, the COVID appropriate behavior is really compromised, and we need to look at the strategy. That is important.
All right. Well, I think those are very, very important comments from Dr. Garg, who's saying that perhaps we need to rethink and bring down the cap on public gatherings to 50. Currently, like I said, as per the new rules put in place in Karnataka, it is 500. So do we need to have a rethink on that strategy? Big question. Thank you all very much for joining us this morning on NDTV. It's a story that we're going to continue to track very closely.
Well, Prime Minister Modi is going to be meeting the Russian President Vladimir Putin after a period of 2 years. The agenda is all about the 21st Annual India-Russia Summit. That's what we are going to be talking about. India and Russia, by the end of today, are expected to sign 10 bilateral pacts. Now, a lot of this is defense-related. For example, the supply of 7.5 lakh AK-203 rifles, which will eventually replace the AK-47 rifles in the Indian Army, in the Indian Armed Forces. India is in the process of inducting Russian-built S-400 surface-to-air missiles. The progress of that deal might come up. India might be looking at further S-400 units. We don't know whether that's going to be the case, but it's a 35,000 crore rupee deal. It is in the works now. Very likely it will come up in some way, shape or form. Russia also looking to win a key submarine contract with India, the Project 75I deal, but again, that's going to take some time. There'll also be agreements on connectivity, on shipping, on military technical cooperation as well. Both sides will be looking at the evolving security situation in Afghanistan. Remember, Russia has their embassy open over there and therefore a huge stake in what is developing on the ground in Kabul. India no longer has any diplomatic presence on the ground in Afghanistan at this stage. Now, this is, as I mentioned, the first face-to-face meeting between President Putin and Prime Minister Modi since November 2019. Now, it's also very important because the Russian foreign and defense ministers are also in Delhi. In fact, India and Russia are expected to release a joint political document by the end of the day.
What is so special of this visit? Well, after all, it's taking place after a comparatively long pause in physical contact, around 2 years. The volume of the relationship is immense. It goes back to centuries and includes each and every sphere, even of public life. This is number one. Thus, it is very, how should I say, difficult to manage this kind of relationship within the scope of one phone call lasting 30 or 40 minutes. And feature number two, this is not an ordinary relationship. This is a relationship of a especially privileged strategic partnership.
Welcome back. You're watching The Good Stuff with me, Shanakshi Chakravarti, on NDTV. And for the last 1 year, ever since this pandemic struck us, we at NDTV have been trying our best to bring to you all the good that is emerging out of this pandemic, because despite the gloomy times, we believe there is still some good, there is still some hope left. I have a very special guest joining us today from Arizona in the US. 9-year-old Anaik Singh has a very special story to share with us, because he, for one, has been up to something very good all through this pandemic. Welcome to The Good Stuff on NDTV, Anaik Singh.
Hi, thank you.
All right. So Anaik, we're from India. All of us here in India have, in bits and parts, understood or have read what you have been through, because you have been on that Ellen show, which made you really popular over the last 1 week. You've got thousands of more followers. Your story is a very unique one, because you started a library for the homeless, for those who were hit by COVID, and you thought to yourself that why not help everybody with books, because books and reading is something that helped you beat loneliness because of this pandemic. So go ahead and tell us, how did you think about initiating and creating something called as the Loving Library?
So my mother got COVID and we were isolated for about 3 weeks. Then my grandmother got COVID and she was in the hospital. I would FaceTime her and I could see that she could not interact with any other people. So my family read books to pass time, so I thought my grandmother could read books to pass time too.
So that's actually such a noble and such a brilliant idea for a 9-year-old to think that you can help those hit by COVID and you can help the homeless. So talk to us a little bit about the Loving Library. For those who don't know, and for those who are watching us right now, Anaik Singh's mother got COVID, his grandmother got COVID, and so he got separated from the entire family. And the only thing that really helped him through this period was reading books. And so once everybody became well, when they were cured of COVID, he actually extended this idea, this very noble thought of helping spread the message of reading to his entire community. So Anaik, what has the response been like for the community around you in Arizona where you live? How have people responded to this?
So people responded by giving us a lot of book donations so we could help the homeless and the COVID patients more. And they also responded by liking us and following us and complimenting us.
That's absolutely great. Anaik, we also saw you on the Ellen show. That is a huge deal. I mean, people really dream about making it to the show. I want to know from you, talk us through what was the experience like to be on the Ellen show?
So it felt really, really excited I felt really, really excited on the inside. And I actually thought I was going to meet a really famous celebrity. And that I just wanted, and I knew I just had to talk with my heart. So.
Well, absolutely. And this has been a very difficult year for many families, for pretty much the entire world with COVID and with so many other ailments really around. What are some of your favorite books, and can you give our viewers and our audience some book recommendations to children in India?
So I think a couple books. One that I'm reading is called Story Thieves. It's the Stolen Chapters, and I'm also reading Harry Potter. And we used to read these bedtime stories from India at night. I forgot what the name of the book was called, but yeah.
Okay, so Anaik, last couple of questions for you. in India, of course, we've also had to face a lot of challenges because of COVID, and there are homeless people here as well. But I also learn and I also understand that you've not just gone ahead and helped people with your idea of reading books, but you've also donated and you've raised funds and charities for them. I think you've collected over 1,000 books, and you have a certain aim and a goal for this year as well. And I think Ellen also contributed to that charity. Tell us a little bit about that.
So this year I was working with homeless people, and our goal was 1,000 books this year. We have over 200 books, and so Ellen did donate $15,000 to help us reach our goal.
Do you have a message for India? Do you have a message to the children of India?
Yes, so my mom always says the more you give, the happier you become. And that means so the more you give away to people, your heart becomes happier and happier every single time.
That's a lovely message to end this show on. The more you give, the more happy not only you become, but your entire ecosystem around you becomes happy and joyful. I want to leave our viewers perhaps with a small message by you, maybe in Punjabi. Can you say something in Punjabi to your family? I know you have family here in Punjab. Do you want to say something to them?
Sat Sri Akal.
Sat Sri Akal. I think that's perfect. And thank you so much, Anaik. I wish you all the best. And I think anybody who is watching us right now will perhaps go on and surf you on the internet to know more about Anaik's loving library, as you call it. And I hope you are able to spread happiness. You already are. And I hope you reach your goals. And I hope that you achieve all that your heart desires. Thank you so much, Anaik, for joining us from Arizona. I know you have a soccer game to rush to, but thank you for speaking to NDTV, and thank you for being on The Good Stuff.
Thank you too, but if you want to help us reach our goal, you can donate at anaikslovinglibrary.org or the Facebook fundraiser at Anaik's Loving Library.
I hope our viewers have taken note of that, and on that note, it's a goodbye from us, from the entire NDTV team on The Good Stuff. There's more to come. Stay tuned to NDTV.